Hey guys, the AFL draft is now under a week away. Some great prospects are going to get picked up in this draft. And with it now being about 4 days until the actual draft, I thought I'd jump in and do my final mock draft of the year. I will be including some live trades and you'll see that pretty soon, but just a few touch-up things. If you guys haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. A large percent if you haven't subscribed really mean a lot to me. We've gained over 100 subscribers in the past week of uploading, which absolutely amazing to me. And also just, if you're a Saints supporter, I have a St Kilda Instagram account which you can also follow. That will be up on the screen. And then I guess another announcement for Saints fans, I have a pretty exciting announcement for you guys at the end of the video. So if you want to, I guess you can just skip to the end of the video and look at that announcement. But yeah, just a few touch-up things as well before we do get into the draft. The final draft order is now finalized, so West Coast had the final pick at 92. That's something that wasn't known when I did my last mock draft, so all these picks here were handed out by the AFL because these teams did not meet the minimum threshold of senior list spots, and 2 Gold Coast picks were absorbed, so they had 6 picks originally, but they didn't have enough list spots to... I'm trying to think how I can explain. They had more picks than they had list spots, so 2 of those picks were just absolved, and Brisbane would have had the same issue, but they did a trade with Collingwood. I believe the trade was for pick 58, and then Collingwood got 60 and 66. I could be wrong, but I believe that was the trade. Yeah, that should be every touch up, and yeah, let's get straight into it. So with pick 1, I'm keeping it the same. I don't think there's any reason to change this at all. Sam Layla, he is my favorite prospect in the open pool. I've come around to it now, and yeah, I think it just makes sense. All the reports are that he's going pick 1 to Richmond, and I can definitely see it happening on draft night. Is there an issue with his body and his injuries? I don't think a big enough issue to where Richmond really have to worry. And yeah, he's just going to be the next Dustin Martin for him, let's be honest. And now, this is where my draft gets really bold. I'm going to have Adelaide trading up to pick 2 to grab Jagger Smith. And I feel like it's pretty controversial take, but it's been backed up by a couple sources that Adelaide are really doing it. At first, when I heard the trade, I was like, oh, it makes sense. They got to jump Carlton and they're going to grab Sid Draper. But apparently not. They're jumping up to grab Jagger Smith, who I would have thought was available at pick 4. So here it is. Apparently this is what's happening on draft night. The trade that's on the right hand of the screen should be a little different, but that's just what I've mocked up for now. But Jagger Smith at pick 2 to the Crows. It's interesting with Draper still on the board, but I do want to make this draft like my own opinion, obviously, but I've heard it from a few reliable sources that that's the way Adelaide are going, and it leaves Sid Draper to Carlton at pick 3. Now, a lot of people are going to say, Foss is on the board. Why haven't they taken Finn O'Sullivan? Look, apparently Michael Voss has gone out. He's had dinner with Sid Draper. He's had dinner with Sid Draper's parents. He flew to Adelaide. I think when you're doing that much work into a player, I think that shows you really want them. You think of all the times that players have been called coaches at the airport. The famous one is Travis Boak in Geelong, or Sam Mitchell's been known to do it recently, but I think Sid Draper here is the way that Carlton will go on draft night. He's a point of difference in that midfield. He's a bit different from Foss, adds that speed, and then with pick 4, this is where I'm going to have the Levi Ashcroft bid come in. And no, I think it's fitting. North Melbourne bid on Will Ashcroft at pick 2 in 2022, and now they're going to bid on Levi Ashcroft with pick 4 in 2024. So I think it's pretty fitting there, and it's going to cost them 28. 35, 44, and 59. So they give up 2 seconds and 2/3 and get back a 4th round pick for one of the better players in this draft class. So with pick 5 now, they could look to take a midfielder here at North Melbourne, but I think it just makes the most sense to take Alex Tarvu as the best key position player. Look, in my opinion, they don't need any more midfielders. It's something I've talked about at length in my last video when I did a trade for them, but Alex Tarvu at pick 5 is more valuable here than a midfielder. And, you know, maybe if they knew LDU was going to leave next year, if they just knew 100%, and I think it's very likely now, like, he hasn't signed a contract yet. He could wait a little bit longer, look to sign it in the mid-season if they do improve, but yeah, I think the only way they draft a mid here is if they know LDU's leaving and then they draft one of the bigger body mids here. And then at Melbourne, you've got a few interesting prospects on the list. So Langford's still on the list, Smiley's still on the board, Finn O'Sullivan's still on the board. He's someone that's slid a bit. And Bo Allen is the strong one that they've been linked to heavy. Now here I've got Harvey Langford going to Melbourne. And my main reason why is when you look at their midfield, you've got Petrarca, you've got Viney, you've got Oliver right now. They're all players that are a bit iffy. They've all seem to be looking for moves a bit from an outside perspective, but you know, you've got Sparrow, who a lot of people don't talk about. You've got Rivers, who could make a move there. You've got McVee, who looks like he's becoming a lot more of a midfielder. I think Langford as that big body type is a point of difference there for their midfield. It's not really something they have. And then with pick 7, I'm gonna switch it up. I usually have St Kilda going Josh Smiley, but I'm gonna have Richmond taking him at pick 7. Now this is a massive link. I've heard a lot that Richmond really wants Smiley, and it's something I can understand when you think of it like this. Sam Layla, 187, half forward, midfield hybrid plays, gonna be amazing. Josh Smiley, 195 centimeter midfielder, he's a clearance beast. So you put Smiley in there, you don't have to worry about Layla getting too many clearances because Smiley's just gonna dominate them. And then at pick 8, I'm gonna have Gold Coast bidding on Leonardo Lombard. So you can see it here, the final trade should be something like 39, 41, 49 and 59, so I believe that's 2 seconds and 2/3, the same with Brisbane, what they gave up for Ashcroft, and then they're going to get back pick 70, so a 4th round pick, but really like Lombard as a prospect, and yeah, I think 8 would be his range in the draft. Now at pick 9, I've got St Kilda grabbing Finn O'Sullivan. He's probably the biggest slider out of this top group of mids, and it's something I've heard a lot, and I'll refer to an article from The Age. So The Age did a mock draft of, you know, what the recruiters were thinking, and they had the Josh Smiley thing here and the Finn O'Sullivan here. So I guess more the Smiley reason. So Richmond might find it too irresistible to pass on O'Sullivan or whoever, or the top line midfielder slips through. And Bo Allen was another link here, but I think Finn O'Sullivan is probably the most likely mid to fall out of that real top group of about 6. And it's mainly due to his injuries. He was barely able to stay on the park this year, and I think that's something clubs could look into as a reason that he falls. And you know, I get it, it could be a bit of a biased opinion, but I think it will be the way it ends up falling on draft night. And then with pick 10, I've got us taking Bo Allen, or the Saints taking Bo Allen. Just another player we've been linked to heavy. I don't think we're scared to take WA talent like a few other clubs could be. And then for the final pick in the top 11, I'd say now, is Harry Armstrong. And this could have been back-to-back St Kilda picks. This is something I only learned recently. Harry Armstrong sadly was a part of St Kilda's NGA for a couple years, but I don't know the reason he left. It may have been due to COVID, but he's not a part of our academy anymore, so we could have had all 3 of these players. That would have been amazing. But that leads us into Richmond with pick 12, and I've got them picking up Toby Travaglia here. Currently, they've drafted Smiley, I've drafted Layla. I think Travaglia is a really good option here. And do they see him as the Dan Rioli replacement at the start? I think they do, as that running half back, and then I think as he develops more as a player, he's going to develop into more of that inside midfielder role. And now with pick 13, I'm going to have Essendon matching the bid on NGA Academy prospect Isaac Kako. I think it just makes sense. Best small forward in the draft. I think small forward is probably an area of need for Richmond right now. I'm trying to think. I couldn't even tell you who their best small forward is. Bolton left. There probably is a good one that I just really can't think of, but small forward is a bit of an area I think they do need to address in this draft. And this is going to be a bit of a weird way to do it, but I've got them taking Murphy Reed, who look as a prospect, as a midfielder in the Coates Talent League, I really like. I don't know if I see him being a full-time mid at AFL level, and I think you look at his forward craft in the Coates Talent League, I think he'd actually be a really effective high half forward to small forward, and that's something I really like with Reed. And I think, you look at this, all of these clubs, maybe he'd go to the Bulldogs at pick 20, but it's a big drop off from Reed to go from being a top 14 prospect to being a top 20 prospect. And I think it just makes sense for Richmond to grab him here, which leads West Coast grabbing Vic Country prospect Xavier Lindsay, someone who I really like. I'd love St Kilda to try and get him at some point in the draft. I do think, these 2 picks are probably a bit too high, but if he slips to one of these GWS picks, I could see a trade up. But Lindsay, a player I really like, probably will partner pretty well with Harley Reid there. Obviously, they're just going to look to build their team around Reid a little bit. And then Joe Berry here to Port Adelaide just adds to that elite small forward mix they've got going on. With Joe Richards came in this year, Rioli is a really good small forward, really underrated, and Darcy Byrne-Jones is one that went in there as well this year. Now I've got another trade. I've got the second of my 3 trades in the first round. I've got Essendon trading back in, so it is a safe spot now. The fact that the Kako bid's off the board allows them to do this, and I've got them taking Job Shanahan. Played for their VFL squad earlier in the year and killed it, kicked 4 goals against the Bull Ants. And I think it just makes sense. When you look at Essendon's list, their real only key forward in my eyes is Peter Wright, and he hasn't done that great. I think Wiedemann got delisted. They tried playing him as a key back. Why do Fremantle do it? The obvious answer is Chad Warner. They're looking to chase him, and either which, I haven't listed which first round pick it will be, if it's Melbourne or Essendon's first round pick, but they'll get the pick of it. And then GWS have back-to-back picks here, and this is where it might get a little bit weird. So I've got them taking Cooper Hines and Ollie Hannaford. Now Ollie Hannaford is probably the name that jumps out a little bit. I think I had him at like pick 35 in my last mock draft, so a massive jump up. He's jumped up 16 picks, but in my opinion, these are the 2 best Vic Country products that are available in this draft, and for some reason GWS really like drafting out of Vic Country. I think it could be because of how Vic Country players are less likely to go home. That isn't always true. You think Tanner Bruin went home to Geelong, but then at pick 20, Bulldogs are going to get an absolute steal here in Taj Hodden. His ACL injury, I don't think hurts him as a product, but I think hurts his stock. I think because of that ACL injury, clubs are just sort of going to forget about him on draft night. I know it's a bit of a weird way to play it, but I think he's going to fall here. And again, it's sort of the Murphy Reed issue with Richmond, right? I think if you're an interstate club, you want to take Vic Country prospects because they're less likely to return home. And like Murphy Reed, I know it's been questioned a lot if he really wants to move interstate. And then like Essendon could be an option, but I think with Shanahan on the board, it just makes sense. And that leaves Richmond at pick 20, and they're finally going to work on their tolls. I'm going to have them grabbing Jack Whitlock, which is my favourite of the two Whitlock brothers currently. It always changes. I always prefer one over the other every time I do a mock draft, but I think Jack Whitlock makes sense here. Add to the key forward depth. You know, you've got Tom Lynch there, you've got McKelty Lafau, and also he's a backup ruck. He can swing into the ruck in place of Nank at times. Can also swing back as well, like his brother can. But yeah, Jack Whitlock to Richmond at pick 21, I really like. Now with pick 22, I've got Brisbane making another bid here on Sam Marshall. They're going to have to give up a second and a third round pick and get back a fourth round pick. Marshall's stock has risen a little bit since his National Champs Grand Final, obviously, or just Coates Talent League Grand Final, I should say. But I think the talk is that Sydney are most likely to make the bid. I've had GWS making the bid in a couple mock drafts. I've had the Bulldogs doing it, but in this place I'll have Sydney do it, and then I'm going to have them take the other Whitlock brother in Matt. Again, I think Sydney really just need to focus on that sort of key position talent in this draft. And then Richmond, I've got them taking Jesse Totoli, an other product I've really liked, sort of in the Ollie Hannaford mould. It wouldn't surprise me if he went to the Bulldogs with pick 20 even Totoli, but I think he's talked about how he sees himself a bit more as a midfielder than a small forward at AFL level, and that's something you can see in his Coates Talent League performances. But I think right now Richmond really need to address that small forward position, and they get that with Totoli here. Now at pick 25, I've actually got GWS trading out of this pick, and sort of for the same reason why they took Cooper Hines and Ollie Hannaford. I don't really like any of the remaining Vic Country players here at GWS. I think Jonty Fall is the next best option out of Vic Country, but then after that there's a pretty big drop off. It takes like Jack Off and or Jack Oof, however you want to pronounce it, and like a James Barrett, who is another option out of Vic Country. But I think this position's a bit too high, and I spoiled it earlier, but Luke Trainer's going to land here to St Kilda for a future first. Addresses that Josh Battle position that they really need to address in some way, especially after bringing in Jack Carroll. We won't have many list spots left in this draft, and I think addressing key defenders an option. And then Jonty Fall here, so he's really my last best Vic Country prospect. And then Richmond rounding out the first round, I've got them taking Alex Dodson, the best ruck in this draft out of SA. So that will be it for the live trading. I think when you get into the second round, it does get a lot harder to do live trading. And there'll definitely be live trading on draft night, obviously, but let's get into the second round now. So up first, I've got Richmond taking Tom Gross. Probably one that's unlucky to slide out of that first round. Same with Christian Moraes at pick 29 to the Bulldogs. But I think both of these teams still need to address the midfield depth in some way, and they get that. These are probably the two biggest sliders in my opinion. They both could easily be first round prospects. And then Kaylee Garron, or Jarine, however you want to say it, he's another one that I really like, another big bolter for me. And pick 30 to the West Coast. You know, you look at West Coast ruck, so you had Bailey Williams playing in there. He's not a ruckman. You've got Archer Reed, who's yet to play a game. You've got Harry Barnett, I want to say his name is. I don't think he's played a game, or maybe he has. Jack Williams, I think, is a lot more of a key forward than a ruck, despite his size. You've got you brought him in last year from GWS. I'm forgetting his name right now, but you've got him as well. But I think Kaylee Garine, you can play him as a full forward, you can play him as a ruck, sort of, you know, you can swing him through those positions, and probably the best WA talent on the board here. And then I've got Port addressing their Dan Houston situation with him leaving. I'm taking Harry Oliver. He's probably a bit more of an intercepting defender than Houston was, unless a running defender, but still think this is a really good option for them here. And then with Freo, I've got them taking Hamish Davies, so he's a bit of a lead up third forward and can play in the midfield at spurts. And then Essendon, I've got them grabbing Harry O'Farrell here. I think they do need to address, like I said, key position players. They had Kelly retire this year. So when you think of their key defenders, you've got Mackay there, you've got Reed there, Zach Reed, who knows what's going on with him. He seems to always be injured. You've got Ridley there, and I think O'Farrell is probably a prospect you would consider. This is really his range. And at pick 34, I've got St Kilda bidding on Ben Camprioli, and then it's going to cost the Blues pick 40, which, you know, was right here. It wasn't that far away. And then I've got St Kilda picking up Thomas Sims. In my opinion, he's the best key forward left on the board, and that's an opinion I think we need to address. And Hawthorn, I think I had Thomas Sims going to them in my last draft, but I've got him picking up James Barrett. Now, I think key defender is a position they don't need any more of. You think they've got James Blanco, Janae ACL this year didn't play. They've got Sam Frost, they've got Barras, they've got Battle. But I think Barrett has that ability to play key forward as well, so he's probably a bit more of a utility than just a key defender like I've got him listed as. And then at pick 37, I've got the Bulldogs picking up Jack Off, however you want to say it. But yeah, midfield depth. It's probably, I think I have them taking a midfielder with every one of their picks. They really need to address midfield depth with this team. And then Angus Clark here, so another defender, but this time out of SA, so Port picking him up. And then I have GWS picking up Vic Country defender Noel Miraz, so look, GWS just have a lot of talent. I think they just need to take the best available with every single one of their picks that they hold. And then with pick 40, rounding out the end of the second round, I've got Jasper Algier going to Essendon. So just, you know, adding to that small forward depth, that when you look at Essendon's small forward depth, so you've got Kako now, you've got Guelphy, you've got Menzies. I don't really rate Menzies or Guelphy at all. You've got Gresham in there. He wasn't that great this year, let's be honest. And then start of the third round, I've got Sydney bidding on GWS Academy prospect Logan Smith. Then I've got them picking up Josh Dolan, small forward. Then I've got Geelong picking up the best Geelong prospect in this draft, Lockie Jacks. I think it, just makes sense for them to draft out the Geelong Falcons. They're probably going to end up getting them anyway. But then I've got St Kilda director bidding on Adrian Cole. Bulldogs taking another midfielder in Bendigo Pioneers player Archidate Wicks. Port Adelaide picking up key forward Charlie Nichols. So key forward's probably a position I would have had them address if Harry Armstrong was still on the board with their first pick, but grab Nichols here, grab the hometown boy. And then Collingwood addressing key forward, position they need to address like badly. They got McStay, but he's the real only like key forward I'd say, and so they're going to grab Gabriel Stumpf here. Then I've got the Bombers with their back-to-back picks. They're going to pick up Xavier Ivicic, who's probably a bit more of a winger. And then Bailey McKenzie, so like a third tall forward, played at Sandy this year. And then Collingwood again addressing key defence, so they're going to pick up Clancy Dennis. Then Geelong going to pick up Riley Bias. He'll pair quite nicely with the Werribee boy they picked up last year. His name went past me in the last video, and I'm trying to remember it now. It shouldn't be that hard. He kicked like 3-4 goals in a qualifying final. Sean Manor, his name always escapes me, but Riley Bias, so picking up another Werribee Tiger here. And then Joel Cochran, I've got Sydney bidding on him with their last pick of the third round. And then Collingwood picking up Floyd Burmeister, who probably the best ruck left on the board here for them. They've got Oscar Steen, they've got Darcy Cameron, but I think that second ruck is the spot they could look. And then Floyd Burmos, he can also play key forward, so again, addressing that key forward depth. And with round 4, this is a pick I had last time, Dom Brew to North Melbourne. I think, you see, they've tried to address leadership and veteran leadership a lot in the past couple of trade periods. So Liam Shields came in from Hawthorn, Luke Parker, Caleb Daniel. I think, again, just adding to that veteran leadership. He doesn't have to play, but just the fact that he's on your AFL list, you know he's going to fight for a spot really hard. You know he wants to play at AFL level. And I think that competition is something that's really important for North Melbourne. I think if you look at it like this, he has worked so hard to get to the point where he's at Dombu. He's going to work even harder if he gets to AFL level. And if he makes that starting midfield over those players like McKercher, Harry Sheasel, Will Phillips, while it might be a bit of a downer on their confidence, they're going to look at it like, look at this guy, he has worked so hard to get to the position where he's at, and he's outworked us, and, you know, we were top 5 prospects. This guy's been looked over in how many drafts? I think that's something that's going to be important for those younger players at North Melbourne, if he does get a spot there. And then got Sam Toner to the Blues. Mature ager, sort of, but he's really only born a year later than everyone else in 05. Pick 56, Ned Bowman to Adelaide. Then Essendon picking up another winger in Patrick Rochesko here. Then I've got St Kilda accepting Collingwood's bid on Lennox Hoffman. Then Fremantle are going to pick up William Hayes, but first Collingwood are actually going to pick up Sam Davidson, another mature age prospect out of the VFL. I've got Brisbane passing on a bid here. Then Carlton are going to bid on Lucas Campriali and then pass the next pick. Then the Hawks are going to direct bid on Cody Anderson. Then Carlton are going to pass. Then West Coast are going to pick up Luke Urquhart out of East Fremantle. Then Gold Coast and Brisbane are both going to pass. Geelong are going to take Ollie Warburton. I could probably have Geelong in the same mould of, Gold Coast and Brisbane and Hawthorn who are up next and passing these picks, but you look at Lawson Humphries last year, I think of that, I'm like, I don't think they're really going to want to pass these late round picks. And then starting round 5, so this is where we've reached the picks that are here because of the senior list spots, so you are still able to pass these picks, you don't have to use them, but I've got North Melbourne taking River Stevens, father-son prospect, NGA prospect, so Jaden Ewan here to the Bombers. I've got Harry Charlison to the Eagles, Tyler Welsh to Adelaide, Luca Grego, who's a prospect I really like. It wouldn't surprise me if he gets picked up. I've got Melbourne picking him up here. And then Harry Boyd to St Kilda, Reece Unwin to Fremantle. Collingwood are going to pass this pick. Then Nathaniel Sulzberger to the Bulldogs, so again addressing midfield depth. Josh Murphy here to Geelong. He's a player that probably could go a bit higher, Murphy. I really like him. And then Lucas Tovey to North Melbourne, so addressing key defender. And then I've got the Eagles taking Malachi Champion here. And then the rest of these picks are going to be passes. So it ends out being a 75 pick mock draft in the end. So yeah, I hope you guys did enjoy it. And if you guys stayed for that announcement, I am going to be opening a Discord server for the channel. It's mainly going to focus on St Kilda news, but the link to that will be in the description. And yeah, hope you guys join it. Yeah, just have fun with it, just be good to chat in there, talk about AFL or talk about anything else. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like, subscribe, comment, all the usual stuff. And yeah, hopefully I'll see you guys with another video maybe on draft night.